everybody, I'm Bree the Plant Lady, and today I am finally getting this property border replanted for the summer season. If you've watched some of my videos over the last few months, you'll know that I had a massive weed infestation over here and I've had to work really hard to get it under control, but it's finally there. I'm feeling really good about getting this planted. And I have some really big grafted heirloom tomatoes that I am going to position in this part of the bed because I know that I can keep this corner watered really well. And then I'm actually going to do a really awesome ground cover installation here. I'm going to plant this as a solid mass of peanuts. So the first step in my tomato growing process always begins with cattle fencing. I've learned that tomato cages are completely useless. My tomatoes always grow way larger than that. So I use cattle fence panels. I buy these from Tractor Supply. They're easy to bend. I recommend bending them. That way when the wind blows, they're much sturdier. What's really great about these is that they're self-staking. So you can cut these so that they're literally, you can just drop it in and then you don't need to add rebar or anything else to it. And it's galvanized steel, so you can use these for years and years. They don't rust and they don't deteriorate. In the winter, I put these in specific parts of my backyard to prevent deer from walking into the backyard. They still come in through my neighbor's yards, don't get me wrong, but it helps a little. So I usually will plant my tomatoes, usually 4 per panel. I have 4 grafted tomatoes to go right here. And then I'm gonna put a matching panel on the other side. That way the tomatoes are actually sort of pinched in, and then there's 2 sides that you can actually kind of twine them through. So it makes it really easy long-term to keep the branches, upright and make it easy to be able to harvest the fruit. So because these are grafted, I don't need to dig deep holes. The thing with grafted tomatoes is if you get the scion wood or the desired cultivar rooted, then you don't actually have the benefit of the grafted understock. So it's really important that you only plant them as deep as that graft union and no deeper. So that's great because that means it's not a big hole to dig. I've got my cattle fences in place, and it may look a little wonky to begin with, but honestly, within just a few weeks, the tomatoes will grow and you won't even see the cattle fence. For me, this is just really the most practical, easiest way to, to grow vining tomatoes. Remember, tomatoes are vines. So the reason I have them here very specifically is because this corner gets watered when I run my sprinkler. The rest of this bed is going to be really dry, so that's why I've chosen the plant palette of gladiolus, sunflowers, and a ground cover of peanuts. Now, the reason that these plants are grafted and why that is meaningful is because here where I garden, this used to be a tobacco field. In fact, most of the county that I live in was all tobacco. And there are a lot of repercussions from that past land use with disease buildup in soil and, of course, root knot nematodes, which are a huge problem for a whole bunch of plants, especially heirloom tomatoes. So I've learned over the years that grafted on nematode resistant and disease resistant rootstock is really my best approach. Finding grafted tomatoes isn't always easy, and this year I was only able to acquire 4. So, I want to make sure I take really good care of these. Now, my number one suggestion for tomatoes in the southeast, but this applies for everywhere, make sure you mulch them. There's a lot of soil-borne diseases that will actually happen as a result of water hitting the soil and bouncing back up onto the foliage. I don't have any mulch right now, so I'm gonna wait to water these until tomorrow. I'm gonna get a couple of bags of mulch just to do this area, and then next week when I have more time, I'll be able to get my trailer and mulch the entire border. But it's really important. Tomatoes really need to have that mulch down. And then my approach to fertilizing is actually pretty low key. I'm just gonna do like a handful of cottonseed meal. That is just a slow release form of nitrogen. And then once a month, I usually water with either kelp meal or fish emulsion. Now, the real critical component for success with growing tomatoes, really anywhere, but especially here in the Southeast, is consistent moisture. So that can be really hard to control because you literally have no control over a rainstorm. And you know, if you get 3 inches of rain, you're probably going to deal with splitting fruits and maybe some blossom end rot. And that's just an issue of the climate. But if you can, you know, control making sure that you just keep your tomatoes constantly moist. Don't let them go from extremely wet to extremely dry. That will actually also help reduce a lot of the disease and insect problems because then the plants won't be stressed. But it'll also just make it so that you have better yields and better looking fruit, and you'll be able to harvest for a longer duration of time. Well, I look forward to giving you updates on these grafted tomatoes. They already have fruit on them, so harvest won't be far off. And I'm wishing you all the best in your tomato growing season. Please give me a like and subscribe to Breathe the Plant Lady and hit that bell notification so you'll know when I post a new video. And I thank you so much for watching today. Stay tuned for my next video where I will show how to plant the rest of this property border as a drought-tolerant, low-maintenance foodscape featuring a ground cover of peanuts.